Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Christian, co-owner and developer of EA Builder Pro. Do you want to know how you can turn any custom indicator into a trading bot? Well, just keep watching because we're showing you the way which almost always works. Also, we're recording good stuff which you don't want to miss out on. I'm going to show you how to build 20 bots in only 5 minutes each. And even more interestingly, how to improve the results of your current EAs just by adding good trade management the way the professionals do. And as we all know, good trade management is the holy grail of trading. All this is coming in the next few months for free, so subscribe now. Now let's get started.
Indicators are important values which are used by your expert advisor to create entry and exit conditions. Before you can use an indicator, you will first have to add it to the indicator section of your expert advisor. Before you can add an indicator to an expert advisor, you will first have to add an expert advisor to your account. Once done, you can add an indicator to your expert advisor by clicking on the Add button in the Indicators section of your expert advisor. Here you will see a list which contains all the available indicators for your expert advisor. By default, we provide all the standard MetaTrader 4 and 5 indicators. In addition, you can add your own indicators. Once you've clicked Next on an indicator, you can assign a name to your indicator and, optionally, adjust parameter values. In case you want to use a custom indicator, click the Add button again. Now click Upload Custom Indicator. After uploading, analyzing the indicator can take up to 20 minutes maximum, but is usually a lot faster. If you get an error after uploading, contact us. Also, to upload a marketplace indicator, you will need to ask us to do this for you. If your indicator was processed successfully, you will see it's ready processing and no error occurred. Click on the Modes tab. Now you should see the modes, which are the values your indicator has. If your indicator has up and down arrows, you could very well see 2 modes. It's also possible you see many modes. If the modes already have a name, like in this instance, arrow up and arrow down, you're finished setting up the indicator and you can now add the indicator to your expert advisor. Most of the time, the names are not filled in for you, or you will see more modes than you expected. Don't worry, we'll guide you step by step. So, Plan B is to find these mode names manually. To do this, we're going to load the indicator on the chart and look at what we see on the data window. If the data window isn't visible, please open it as demonstrated. As you can see in the data window, there are 5 modes for this indicator, which matches with the number of modes in our system. Do note that if the number of modes does not match, we will have a procedure to find the correct modes a bit later in this video. Now we'll enter the names of the modes manually. Before we can enter the names of the last 2 modes, which aren't completely readable, we will hover our mouse over the dots on the chart. As you can see, the values become visible when we hover our mouse over the red and blue dots, which tells us which is which. Now enter the correct names for the last 2 modes based on which dots showed a value for which mode. This indicator is now ready to be added to your expert advisor. But what if the number of modes in our system doesn't match with what you see in the data window? To help us, we're going to install a free expert advisor from the marketplace, which will help us finding the correct mode. Search for Buffer Reader and install the Expert Advisor. Now add the buffer reader to your chart and enter the exact name of the indicator. Click OK. If the indicator was found, you'll see data filling the grid. Then click Export. Open the data folder and find the exported file in the same folder we show you. Open the file in Excel. If the data doesn't look well formed, follow the same steps as we do. Now that all data is properly loaded, please note the top row shows the mode numbers, here called buffers. And in the B column, you'll see the times, which match with the bars on the chart. Now let's compare what we see on the chart with what we see in the document. If there's an arrow on the chart, look at the time at which the arrow is displayed. In this case, we see an up arrow at 12 hours and 30 minutes. You can now find the same time in the document. Then look at in which column the value of the arrow is displayed. As you can see, the value is in the Mode 5 column. So Mode 5 is arrow up. We now do the same thing for arrow down, and you'll see Mode 6 is arrow down. We now enter the names of the modes and click Save. We're now ready to add the indicator to the Expert Advisor. Before saving, we give the indicator a friendly shorter name. Click Save. Your indicator has now been added to your Expert Advisor. There's one last scenario for when finding the modes failed, in which case we manually have to enter the mode number when adding the indicator. For this arrow's indicator, we discovered the modes by applying the same procedure as displayed a moment ago using the Buffer Reader Expert Advisor. Add the indicator and rename the indicator to arrow up. Enter mode value 0 if that mode value corresponds to arrow up and click Save. Now add the same indicator again. This time, rename the indicator to arrow down. Enter mode value 1, assuming this mode value corresponds to arrow down, and click Save. Well done. No matter which procedure you followed to add your indicator, you're now ready to use your indicator to build your Expert Advisor. We will now demonstrate how to open an order when using an arrow indicator, a color indicator, or a lines indicator. Let's start with the arrows indicator, which we demonstrated in this video. The indicator has two modes, one for arrow up and one for arrow down. Now open the Open Buy Signal Editor. Then add a condition for opening buy orders and select the correct indicator and mode. Since the arrow is painted anywhere on the chart and thus has any value, we want to buy whenever the arrow's value isn't empty on the selected bar, which is Shift 1. Select Not Equal. Select Constant and leave the value empty. We will now do the same for opening sell orders. If you have a color indicator with two modes, one for green and one for red, then setting up the conditions is identical to the arrows indicator. However, if your color indicator has one mode for both green and red, you will need to validate the value. In this example, value 1 is buy and 2 is sell, which I discovered when following the steps in this video when I was looking at the Excel document and data window. So validate if the indicator equals value 1 for buy, and indicator equals value 2 for sell. If you have an indicator with lines, you may want to open an order when the lines cross upwards or downwards. We will select both lines in our condition and validate if the signal line is crossing upwards for a buy order. We will do the same for a sell order, but this time we're validating the line crossing downwards. Before exporting and testing, it's advisable to add a stop loss on a take profit module. Note that you can also use your custom indicator to set stop loss and take profit when using the Pro modules. The Expert Advisor is now ready to be exported and loaded into MetaTrader for testing.